I was playing you in.
Oh, wow. I was wondering because I felt like there were several opportunities to cut you off and start playing there, and it never happened.
Why didn't it? Oh, that's why.
It probably will in the real one. There
There
it
it
is.
is.
There it is.
There it is.
So anyway, kids, that's how we got fired.
Good teaser.
And then sued our way back into glory.
From fabulous Las Vegas. See, I'm angry. I'm still angry.
There's still a lot of anger.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems,
Real
therapists.
macho man,
You can submit your
Randy
questions
Damon.
anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Oosa. That's going to be okay. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin.
Yeah!
I'm Nick Tanchman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Stone cold Jim Jobin. So if you have ever enjoyed past episodes where I've gotten angry and complained, you do not want to miss this Patreon. Patreon.com/therapy, where Nick loses his shit, and it's glorious. And then Jacob contributes as being, remember that bit in Key and Peele where he was like the president's angry interpreter or whatever?
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what happens. Jacob goes ahead and
I feel like I
augments
mellowed
it.
it out a little bit.
I feel like you took it down a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took it down a few. Yeah, it was
I took
a
it
lot
from
of
Nick's
rage.
incomprehensible rage.
Yeah.
Down to something that could be understood.
Yeah, just the blabbering spittle that was flying through the
Yeah.
microphone was translated into coherent language again.
I'm good now, though.
Check it out. You can find out how we got trolled on Instagram, how Nick responded with rage. He fed the trolls. Never feed the trolls, buddy. But whatever, you got to do you. Glad that happened on Instagram and not in a bar. That's just all I'm glad for. Reminder, if you want to start a fight with Nick.
It'd be
listen
really
to the
funny
Patreon.
if that happened at a bar.
How dare
It'd be
you?
a funny bar conversation.
Did you just order pretzel bites? Where are your ethics? You son of a bitch! Calm down, Nick. We got to get out of here. We're therapists. We can't get brought in again. They're not going to let us go. Sheriff said that was the last warning. No. Patreon.com.
My ethics have been questioned. This shall
there
not
should be a
stand.
glove. There should be a duel, like a slapping glove.
Yeah. That's why I always carry a slapping glove.
Yeah, just in case.
yeah.
Meet me at dawn, sir. You shall not sully my good name.
Pistols at dawn.
Pistols. Choose your method. All right, check it out. Patreon.com/therapy. It's a good time over there. An extra hour of the show that's more of the uncensored and random stuff that go on. So
I'd say so.
I think it was pretty random. So we got some really good questions for this one. Excited. Got some awesome stuff to dig
That'll be
into.
a nice change.
Yeah, we want to depart from, the boring we didn't do shit show and start doing real work again.
Yeah.
So here's a good one to start. Working as a therapist during COVID. Hi guys, I'm a therapist as well and writing to get some advice. I want to first, Brittany, let me tell you about ethics.
I was saving it.
If somebody insults your ethics, Brittany, you punch them right in the mouth as fast as you can. Sucker punch them.
Patreon.com/therapy.
I'm a therapist as well. Brittany, if you're not a Patreon, you need to go be a Patreon. It's
This is worth a dollar,
it.
Brittany.
Especially as a therapist, this is worth your buck. Get in there, patreon.com/therapy. This is the best dollar you'll have ever spent. Hi, guys. I'm a therapist as well and writing to get some advice. I want to say, first, I love listening to your show. It's relatable, and you... Oh, wait. Before we do this...
You're the one reading it. You don't
I'm
have to
the
tell
one
us to
reading
wait.
it. Full stop.
Yeah.
It's episode 200. We did it. This is episode 200. Isn't that exciting?
Wah, wah.
Yeah,
wah.
it's pretty exciting.
So I put out the call, and I said, hey, everybody out there, episode 200's coming up, and we would love to hear how we have affected your lives. If this podcast has made a difference, will you send us an audio or video postcard, and we'll play it right
And
into
no
the
one did.
microphones. One person.
We've affected a life.
One person sent it. I put it on every social media channel we have. One person. To the rest of you, wow.
I didn't even
Thanks
see
for
this.
the support.
I didn't
get
even
mad
see
at
this
them.
post.
Don't get mad at them. That's honesty.
That's honesty.
That's freedom of speech.
So one person did it, and I have it here. It's less than a minute, so I decided I will play it since one
Do we have
person
their
did it.
permission to play it?
Yeah,
Oh, you posted
They know
saying
the whole
that
deal.
was, okay.
So this
all
is
right.
the one person who said our show has made a difference in their lives.
Hold on.
And they're They're sending us the message to let us know what difference it made.
I got $1 saying this is Jim's mom.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. Where the hell were you? Yeah, good point. Thanks, Mom.
Wait, don't you have a sibling that listens to the show?
Infrequently.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
she
you
was
were your
married.
sister, damn it. Wow. You know what? This is a really sad show, actually. Episode 200 might be the end, I think. Maybe we just call it on this
at
one.
least when you ask if we've affected your life, no one replied back with in positive ways? Question mark.
Can you be more specific?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the one video postcard we got.
Hey, Pod Therapy, Edgar Allan Ho here. This is legitimately take 100 of this recording because I haven't been able to contain everything I have to say in under a minute. I started listening to your podcast a little over a year ago, and I can't even begin to express how grateful I am for having found your show. Not just because you guys answer questions that speak to me personally at times, but because I have a lot of trouble going to sleep at night, and I promise you, ever since I've started listening to Pod Therapy, I haven't missed a night's rest. Anyway, Congratulations on 200 episodes. I hope there are 1,000 more because there's no way I'll be able to sleep if you guys stop doing the show, so you just gotta keep doing the show. In all seriousness, though, I love you guys so much, and I hope good things come to you forever and always.
That's awesome.
And yeah. Bye.
Bye. Edgar Allan Ho. Thank you for being the
That was
only one who
awesome.
gave us anything.
Guys.
And I love that the answer
Guys,
was it
respect
helps me
Edgar Allan
sleep.
Ho.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Edgar.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Edgar,
sorry, I don't-
we really appreciate that video message from you.
You have a very
Thank you.
soothing tone.
Thank you
We
so
like it.
You're gonna
so
wake him up.
much.
No, sorry. Yeah, oh shit, you're right.
Gotta wake him up.
Yeah.
Wake him up.
Yeah, that's right.
Jim didn't know what bit I was doing.
Yeah, I thought you were saying his voice was soothing. Now I realize we put him to sleep.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Edgar.
Yeah.
We really appreciate.
we should make this one of those ASMR shows or
help.
whatever. Well, however you use Pod Therapy is your business. I guess we're glad we created all that. Glad it
love
helps you sleep at night.
The rest of this episode is dedicated
To Edgar Allan Ho. Yeah, thank you for being apparently the only listener who benefits from it by getting a full 8 hours.
We should just start every episode with Dear Edgar.
Yeah, that's it. You know what? Screw the rest of you. This show is for one person. That's it. We're just going to start emailing him the episodes. All right, back to Brittany's letter. So she's a therapist. She's writing in for some advice.
And good night, dear sweet Edgar Allan Ho. Sleep real good, sleep real tight, sleep peacefully, Edgar.
Verse 2. Let's keep it going. All right. I want to say first that I love listening to your show. It's relatable, and you all seem like you always have a great time together. I appreciate you all taking the time to answer listener questions. So, I'm fully vaccinated and recently recovered from COVID. I have started having panic attacks since I had COVID and experienced severe anxiety. I am seeing my own therapist because I want to help the clients to the best of my ability. However, some days it's hard because we are all going through this collective traumatic experience, and it's not like therapists are immune to this. My therapist even had COVID and ended up being hospitalized, but is now home, still on oxygen. My therapist and supervisor have both been very supportive and understanding of where I'm at. However, it's frustrating because my anxiety has never been this bad, and I'm usually able to talk myself down. I honestly feel like COVID-induced panic attacks because I've never had them until now. I'm also staying in contact with my doctor to rule out any medical issues because I've been having a super high heart rate that gets up into the 150s. I'm currently taking a beta blocker to manage my heart rate and having to wear a Holter monitor to check everything with the rhythm of my heart. It's been tough struggling with my own personal issues and trying to be there for my clients at the same time, especially when I'm fatigued, anxious, and worried about my health. Any tips or tricks to stay grounded during my sessions or just in general would be great. I know you guys understand that it can be hard working as a therapist while struggling with your own trauma. I'm trying to make sure I stay on top of things and take care of myself, even though I am really struggling right now. Thank you. P.S. COVID sucks. Brittany. COVID does
Yes.
suck.
It does, doesn't it?
You know what? I'm
Guys,
coming out
I was-
against it.
I thought I was the only one that felt that
You know what?
way.
I'm anti-COVID. I think
Yeah.
I've decided.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm not with the big media or pro-COVID. Taking
Yeah.
a
I've got my
hard line.
booster shot scheduled for next week.
Oh, cool!
you really?
Yeah.
For the 3rd dose.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Dose
Yeah, I
number
need to-
3 of the
I need to go
Moderna.
Get that one too.
Because I'm
gotta do
around
that,
the
too.
I'm around the big crowds.
That's
on
right.
on the strip
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
night.
you know, as healthcare people, we can go get our 3rd dose too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the docket. Not they're gonna run out of doses. You can go
No.
get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
gonna-
very easy to schedule this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine.
So this is a tough one. Yeah.
It is. So I'm not sure where you are as far as in your career as a therapist, if you're kind of working. I mean, it sounds like you have a boss, so I don't know if you're still under any kind of like board supervision or internship.
Either this
supervision.
person's an intern or they're in a group practice and have a supervisor. It's just
Right.
a floor supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I think would be helpful, and we've always kind of pushed for this for all clinicians, because a lot of times, like, we have kind of a group cohesive group work group
Mhm.
with other therapists when we're in our internship.
Yeah.
And then once you've passed that, then you're a lot more independent. But one of the things that we've advocated for is maintaining some sort of group of therapists
Right.
for like peer support. Not necessarily just peer support, but for peer learning.
Yeah.
You know, just to continue furthering your education, to always have like, I know some people who are in private practice that still get together with, a lot of therapists that they may have gone to school with that are
Right.
all in private practice, but they still meet like once every 2 weeks to talk about some books that they've read or some research or something like
right.
that.
Little cohort.
A little cohort.
I
And
assume at an IHOP.
yeah.
yeah, typically.
Usually. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of the only place we're allowed.
Yeah.
Because Nick keeps getting us thrown out of all the bars.
Yeah.
People question his integrity and he just beats the shit out of them. Patreon.com/therapy.
And they learn.
it.
And they learn.
It hasn't happened twice, Jim.
That's what I always say afterwards. I always say, "What'd you learn?"
What'd you learn now?
But
Bloody
anyway,
Knuckles Tangman.
yeah, but I mean, doing something like that may be useful because it's a little bit different than therapy,
Right.
You know, where if you're going into therapy, there's kind of a direction that's going to go. But if you've got like a cohort of other therapists and you can process this on a regular basis, just
Yeah.
about like, how are you doing, with your sessions and COVID and, how is this affecting your life? And just be able to kind of talk about that because it's part of that debriefing process,
Right.
Which can be very helpful.
It is. Quick piece of this, Brittany, that I love, and just for the general audience, a great opportunity to just remind people. So when we started Pod Therapy, one of the core like mission guidelines that we sort of established for ourselves was humanizing the profession. Because when people heard that we were therapists, they sort of instantly thought of this like sanitized, stodgy, humorless kind of void. And then like they'd get to know us as people or whatever, and they'd be like, oh, you guys are regular folk. And it's like, yeah, we really are. And that would be very inviting, and people would ultimately feel more comfortable with mental health support, and it would decrease the stigma. But another component of this is, I think, not just humanizing the profession so that it's approachable, but also reminding you that professionals are human. And that's one of the things that I like about Brittany's letter. It gives us an opportunity to just remind everybody out there, if you have a therapist or healthcare providers, they're trying their best during their interactions with you to be professional, to not make it about themselves, to try to be there for you. And that usually means they choose not to burden you with their struggles. Usually. Sometimes they'll relate to you. Sometimes they'll disclose that they too are having a hard time in realities. But usually they pull that back. And they should. It's not your job to carry the water for them. You shouldn't carry those burdens. And it would also inhibit your work. And so in our case, though, and what I like about Brittany's letter, it humanizes the profession and reminds people, hey, we are going through stuff too. Like, we didn't sit the pandemic out. Like, we're also going through it. Our families are getting hurt too. We're scared too. Brittany's gotten it. Her supervisor's gotten it, been hospitalized with it. And we still have to do our jobs. And this is one of the things that I've long believed is very special and different about our profession than other healthcare professions. You can still be a psychiatrist and have a very bad day and a very bad attitude and be exhausted emotionally and have nothing to give people. You can show up, listen to the symptoms, write a prescription, and go on. As a therapist, you bring yourself to the encounter every single time. And there's a lot that goes into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to have control over your demeanor, the tone of your voice, your eye contact, your interest level, your spirit, your enthusiasm, So much goes into facilitating this, and we train for a really long time in all of those little subtle intricacies that go into the work. So when Brittany writes us a letter saying, guys, you know how it is, you do this job, I'm really struggling. Like, I've been having anxiety, I've been having panic attacks, that gets in the way. Wow, you're damn right it does. You know, you're damn right it does. It is very hard to do your job as a therapist whenever you're still dealing with that stuff in vivo, when it's really happening live. So a couple of thoughts to this. So first off, I relate to you, Brittany. The last time I did an in-person session, I did one over the pandemic time with somebody that was very careful. They, it was a random decision to meet with them in person, not a big deal. But they were quarantined, and I knew they were very safe. So I had no fear about that. But if you've listened to the Pod Therapy show throughout all of the pandemic, there was a time I was wearing a Boy Scout shirt over my face. And I've gone through all sorts of weird iterations of like my panic and anxiety about COVID in this studio, and also when we were Zooming for a while, because I was terrified, right? But I remember in February/early March 2020, as the pandemic was catching fire, as it was getting big, I had a guy come in hacking a lung out. And we were all aware of COVID. It was becoming the news thing. It was very scary. He was hacking a lung. And I remember just being in this 150 square foot room with this person and thinking, I am genuinely afraid. I am afraid for my life because of what I'm hearing on the news. I'm afraid for my family's lives. And I'm still looking at this person, and I have this ethical and professional obligation to keep it together, to help this person to get through what they're going through. And they are hacking up a lung. And that was one of the hardest sessions I've ever had in my career because I was so scared. And so like that anxiousness, that panic, that is sincere, that's real. And I got to tell you, Brittany, I just relate to you as a human. I've been blessed to be able to just stick to Zoom. And I've had a lot of people calling me out and being like, hey man, like pandemic numbers are going down. You're vaccinated. Can you please get back in the office? And like, I've taken a hard stance for my practice and said, I know right now my best work is available via Zoom. Mm-hmm. It might placate some people to see me back in office again. I'm sure that means something for some people, but I know genuinely my best work is available via Zoom and phone right now. And I think that I'm still changing lives. I think good work's still happening. So if you have that freedom, Brittany, I mean, I would bring it up with your staff to ask, hey, does this matter? It sounds like what Brittany's talking about, though, is like what, in her view, COVID-induced panic attacks. And that sounds like it's kind of organically happening.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if there's any kind of steps that can be done. Like if you can't do, work from home or, Zoom sessions, because sometimes that's not going to be an option. If you're working for an organization, you may not have say in that. You're just going to have to go with it. But I don't know if there's anything that you can do between sessions that as a grounding technique. If you're able to squeeze in, if you're doing, hour-long, 60-minute sessions, and you just go one right into the next, into the next, into the next, that can be draining, and you don't really have an opportunity to reset between sessions, which means you kind of force yourself to have to reset in the session, which means you're not really present.
Yeah.
If you're able to, really manage time very closely and do 50-minute sessions and give yourself 10 minutes, between sessions where you can do some sort of grounding exercise or some sort of grounding technique, some sort of mindfulness meditation or something that's going to kind of just reset just a little bit. I mean, you may not get all the way back down to zero, but if you can decrease your anxiety, from a 9 to a manageable number at like a 4 or 3 or something like that, then, doing that consistently throughout the day is going to be better than just doing nothing at all.
So when I think about your question, when you say, how as a therapist, do we have any suggestions for grounding techniques or ways to deal with anxiety and trauma as a therapist when you're still trying to do your job? So I want to share a very short personal story that I think, as close as I can reckon, locates me to your experience. Like, so I can, remember what that was like and give you some advice for how I got through it. Early in my career, I was doing private practice on the side. I was seeing patients on weekends. And one weekend I got in there, I did my first session. I got a phone call from my spouse. My spouse knows never to call me during sessions. Every therapist spouse knows. Like, it doesn't happen. Like, you send a text and we'll get back to you when we get back to you. So I knew that was significant and it required my attention. I was at the end of the session, so I just ignored the phone call and then went ahead and, ended the session, shook hands, goodbye, feeling a little pitter-patter of fear. Got to the phone in between sessions, okay? Pick up the phone, call, find out what's going on. and my spouse had miscarried. And we were,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was a very bad day. And so we were months pregnant, and it was very, very bad news. And so that was devastating, and I had sessions. That was a hard day. That was a very hard day. I would have been well justified.
Cancel.
Go out there and say, hey, an emergency has come up. I need to attend to some people. I need to deal with something. This, I'm afraid I have to cancel. And that is what I did to every session except the next one, because the patient was in the waiting room
They're already there.
and the patient was suicidal.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a hard moment because I certainly didn't feel ready to do it.
Yeah.
But I knew, even in my debilitated state, I was better than nothing because of the emergent situation with the patient. And I
Right.
had a responsibility to do my job.
Yeah.
And nobody was in any danger at home. We were just
Right.
devastated.
Nothing you can do at that point
Yeah.
in your own life
And I'll tell you,
except
right,
Well,
grieve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the other thing too is like how present you are for that session.
yeah,
And really for, if we're talking like suicidal ideation,
right.
and not to say that you don't need to be present for it. Of course you're present for it, but it's a lot more
Anything's
like
better
there's
than
steps.
nothing. I
There's
needed to do,
steps.
yeah, we had
and
work
it's
to do.
not something that, you've got
Yeah.
you can just kind of jump into that and you're, all right, this is what we do, then we do this, then we do this.
I felt I had a job to do, and
Yeah.
I knew what I was there to do. And,
Yeah.
that's those moments where, you don't think of, a lot of people make the mistake of not thinking of therapists as healthcare professionals. They just think, there's attorneys, realtors, and therapists, because we co-locate in the same buildings. Like, no, we're in the hospitals too. We're in the front lines. And so, this is part of it. And EMTs have to go to work whenever something bad happens and when things are scary. And so I guess the advice that I'll give you is kind of what I needed to do that day. I went to the patient. I said, hey, I'm running just a few minutes behind. Can I just have a minute? And they're like, of course, Jim, no problem. I let my spouse know, I hear you. I canceled everything except for this one. This is when I'll be home. So I addressed the problem. I went to the bathroom. And for me, this is just Jim's truth. Okay. You need to go find your truth and do what works for you. I've never made a secret in the show that I'm a person who benefits from faith, this idea that maybe there's somebody out there that cares about me. And so for me, going to the bathroom, I one of the hardest moments was I could not cry, because if I started crying, A, I didn't think I could stop, and B, it would be visible. My mascara would be all over the place. It'd just be a real mess. And
like
you
a
know how it
raccoon.
is. I don't use I don't use the waterproof
You
mascara.
spend a lot of time on that.
Well, it
and
looks
it's- You
good.
don't wanna
The
mess it
smoky
up.
eye doesn't just happen, Nick. You got to really get it right. So I knew I couldn't cry, and so I really just looked into the mirror, and I just closed my eyes. And for me, prayer was how I rebooted at that time. And basically, I talked to my higher power, and I said, I believe this has happened for a reason. I also believe I'm in this room for a reason. I believe this person's here for a reason. I can't do this today. So you're going to have to do it. And I'm along for the ride.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel. And, I can't do it. And so, but I said, I believe that this person's here for help, and I'm the only one that's going to be able to help them right now. So get me through this. And, Brittany, for me, that's how I got through scary, anxious panic as I was there to still do my job. Now, I'm not here to proselytize to you and tell you, pick my religion or whatever. I'm just telling you that I want to honor your personal letter with my personal history and tell you that mattered a great deal to me. And so whether that is prayer for you or meditation, personal affirmation, grounding techniques, reading something, that matters to you, that's kind of like your central kind of like thing that you come back to, that's really important. Like another thing that I'll sometimes do if I'm really overwhelmed in the day, I keep the prayer of St. Francis kind of visible to me. And I just really like that prayer. There's a line in that prayer that says, help me to understand rather than be understood. And I've always found that to be a very powerful turn of phrase. Like, I like that. Like, as a therapist, I'm here to understand, not to be understood. It's not about me. It's not about what I'm going through. If what I'm going through is relatable and helpful to the patient, then it's useful. It's part of the method. But otherwise, I'm really not. They're not here to serve me. So I love your letter, Brittany. I wish there was one weird trick. I wish it was like, poke your nose, tap your eyebrows, and you'll be fine. Hey, try tapping. That's a real technique. You could look it up. But you're going to have to take the same medicine and use the same techniques that you're giving to your patients, Brittany. And I will tell you this. I promise you this one thing, my friend. It will make you a better therapist. going through this, overcoming this, learning how to cope and deal with this, it will force you to road test all those textbooks. I am really, really fucking good at helping people with anxiety. I'm not going to lie. I'm really fucking good at it. And there's a reason. There's no theory for Jim. I have had to figure that shit out, right? So I have the tools because they had to work for me. So you too, my friend, are going to develop badass panic management tools and badass anxiety tools because you'll need them to survive. But I promise it'll make you better.
You also learn the value of trial and error.
You do.
And you get a little bit of empathy for what our clients have to go through.
Yeah.
And like, it's not as simple as, oh, well, then you do this step. It's
Yeah.
like, well, no, we're going to go through 100 different things
Right.
and on our path to find the one thing that works.
That's right. But find your mantra. Find the techniques and tools that soothe you, incorporate them, review them. I still use those things and those tools to this day. But you're not a bad therapist, Brittany. This is something we all have to deal with. You're dealing with it. It'll make you a better therapist. And as you know, and as you tell your patients, this gets better. Panic and anxiety do get better. They're very treatable. Also, I'm very proud of you that you went out and got the propranolol. It sounds like that's been helpful for you. I assume it's propranolol. You said a beta blocker. So, but I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you have good care. And lean in on it, my friend. It gets better. And, you don't have to keep it always a secret. Don't be afraid that, like, if they see you struggling, I don't want you to advertise it, but I think you're allowed to relate to people and say, yeah, I felt elevated today too. And you can give that away. And sometimes that's actually very soothing. So it's a healing relationship for both members, I think, too. Great question.
Also, Brittany, Jim just said something about, you'll have to take the medicine that you give your patients. If you don't have a medical license, please don't give medicine to your patients.
That's true. That would be
Unethical.
unethical.
Don't start this shit.
I think we need like the CSI drop.
Don't start this
Like,
shit.
just start,
If you can't handle the way that this finishes, don't start it.
Oh, I can handle it.
He's getting out the glove. He's getting out the glove. Shit. He's got out the velvet glove. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about supporting a spouse with dissociative identity disorder. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, he is.
Hey!
And all the rest of you therapy
and
producers,
these other people.
none of you wrote in, you bastards. You give us your money, you think that's enough? This show requires everything.
And Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury,
Yeah.
Crazy Banana Scoop,
Yeah.
Malaya, and Cindy Ash.
Fine.
Would you like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer? Go to patreon.com/therapy. This week's trivia theme is Trivial Pursuit because I was running late and that's what I had available.
Works for me.
What Middle Eastern leader set up a webpage to hype his 60th birthday 3 months after condemning the internet as satanic in 1997?
Oh, 97.
Is it A, Saddam Hussein, B, Yasser Arafat, C, Benjamin Netanyahu, D, Muammar Gaddafi, or E, Leonardo da Vinci? If you'd like to join the therapy producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. That's patreon.com.
I think it's got to be Gaddafi or it's got to be Yasser. I'm leaning toward Gaddafi. Because
Okay.
the rest of them wouldn't do that. Like Benjamin Netanyahu would have
Da Vinci
had no
would do it.
motivation. Da Vinci would do it.
Right.
Netanyahu would have
He's
no
a
opinion or
No
motivation
ethics.
to do that. Saddam Hussein was not a religious leader. He was a military leader, so he wouldn't have.
Did you say
weighed in on-
religious leader?
Yeah, he was not a religious leader.
No, I said Middle Eastern leader
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think that he would have condemned it as bad.
as satanic.
Yeah, as satanic. I don't think he would have cared.
Or satanic.
So I don't think you would have seen Netanyahu do it. I don't think you would have seen Hussein do it. I don't think Gaddafi was one.
I mean, Gaddafi wasn't a religious
Yasser
leader.
Arafat was the PLO. I don't think he would have done it too. I don't think the PLO was a religious organization. I think Gaddafi's your best bet. What was the other one besides Da Vinci? There was 4, right?
Hussein, Arafat, Netanyahu,
Yeah.
Gaddafi and Da Vinci. I'm going Gaddafi.
I don't think it's Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
My thought as soon as you said it, before you read the names, was Saddam.
I think that's a good second.
What was the birthday?
1997, 60th birthday.
60th
1997.
birthday. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, let's see. How old?
Ooh, he's doing math.
How
yeah,
old
now I
was
kind of feel
Saddam?
weird about Gaddafi.
I think it was
60 and 97.
I'm going Saddam.
Ooh, that's a
Okay.
little old, buddy. 60 and 97.
No, I'm going Saddam.
Well, we got him in 2003. Yeah,
the
you're
answer
probably right.
is Saddam Hussein.
It was
Boom.
Saddam. Good job. Yeah, good call. I don't think that took
I
out.
think Gaddafi's older.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, I think Gaddafi was taken out like 2000 and is Obama
I think
era
2011. I think. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, 10, 11. So he would have been pretty old. All right, supporting a spouse. Let's read this one. I like it. Hey there, Pod Therapy folks.
Hey.
Hey. My wife of a few years and I'm a male by the way, have been struggling a lot during the pandemic. Due to stressors of the pandemic, I grew pretty unemotional and disconnected quite a bit from both myself and her. This lasted a long time. I was and still am in therapy and have since gotten medicated for dysthymia. That has been helping a lot. Anyway, my wife was really unhappy due to my disconnection, the stress of being a frontline worker during the pandemic, and a bevy of her own mental health issues, to the point she started dating one of my, no longer, friends behind my back. That obviously really hurt me, and I've done a lot of work to process through that grief. For what it's worth, she says they didn't do anything physical, and I do believe her about that. At this point, we're seeing a couples counselor with the goal of figuring out what our future should be, and we've both accepted that staying together or splitting up are viable, somewhat amenable options. But at our last counseling meeting, she brought up that her counselor said she might have mild DID. To me, that tracks, given some trauma in her past, and whenever you've talked about it on the podcast, I've thought, that does sound a bit like her. Obviously, there's a lot to process through here. Any advice on the marriage side would be appreciated, but the main thing I wanted to inquire about was the DID. I feel that I'm way over my head here in terms of supporting her. No matter what happens, I want her to be well, and I certainly don't want to detract from her mental health journey. So, how do you approach supporting a partner with DID? Best, Anon a mouse.
Ha!
Nice.
Love it.
That's solid. Love puns. Love them. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
DID?
Dissociative identity disorder.
It's DID. Dissociative identity disorder. DID. A lot of
Go
people
on.
don't know about the
Go
song.
on.
Yeah, there's a song goes with it.
Yeah,
It's
keep going.
fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. I
What's the next line, Joe?
feel like you guys don't appreciate it. What am I, fucking Paul? I can't just make this stuff up. Okay? I just said words in order to a song. That's 100% of what I have for you.
What
That's
song
it.
was that?
Oh, God. Dynamite? Dynamite. Yeah, that was it.
Oh, it's TNT.
Yeah, okay.
Dynamite.
Dynamite. It's dynamite. Yeah, that was it. That's the song.
Close enough.
What is it called? Dynamite?
No, it's called
TNT.
TNT.
Oh, they should have called it Dynamite, I think. Feels like that's the punch of the song.
I'll let Angus know.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Who sings it?
Write your letter. AC/DC.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
It's Battery Guys.
Anyway, back to the question.
Yeah.
They have a battery of songs.
Ah! I like it.
That was
Here's
an
the thing.
ethical joke.
My initial reaction to this, my response to this, so she's got a therapist. We're looking at mild DID. I mean, we can come up with maybe a few ways of being supportive, but I think the most effective way, assuming that you're going to be there and this relationship is going to continue, and you are going to be working on these issues, I think one of the best things that you can do is just be available and willing to participate as a support system in her therapy with her therapist.
Yeah.
Because I think her therapist is probably going to have the best advice and will hopefully be guiding you in the best ways to be supportive of her. Because I think it's going to be hard to, I don't know what your thoughts are, Jim, but I guess my initial reaction to this is I don't think the ways of being supportive for someone with dissociative identity disorder are a whole lot different than ways of just being supportive for most other mental health issues, such as depression or anything like that. There may be a few specific nuances to it, but for the most part, I think like her therapist would be able to guide you in the best ways that are specific to her in being supportive.
Yeah. No, I think that's the case. I mean, at the end of the day, what's the old saying? Default's a cheerleader. You don't have to understand it. The diagnosis, there's value to diagnostics. I mean, and so I think that the therapist bringing it up is useful. Obviously, it's something they're trying to talk about and work through. DID is one of those things that So, okay, we there's been a previous show I know.
Yeah, we just talked about it like
it wasn't
5 episodes ago.
yeah,
maybe?
which is months in pod therapy time, really. Like, we
Yeah,
only
I
do a
don't-
show once a week.
I don't know
so.
what time
Yeah.
is anymore.
So essentially, DID, I mean, to kind of put a summary around it, DID, dissociated identity disorder, dissociative identity disorder, it's kind of, I believe it's classified as a trauma response primarily, but essentially it's characterized by usually some amount of 3 qualities: depersonalization, derealization, what's the third one? Dissociation. That's the obvious one. And so each of those basically has to do in some variable as a disconnection from your reality. We used to call this exact same thing multiple personality disorder, but that poorly characterized it because that is one iteration of it. If you go back in our show history, which is probably what you're referencing, Ryder, we tell a story about a patient that we mutually had that did have that.
Which was an extreme.
The most
case.
extreme. Yeah, like that, the most extreme I've ever seen in my entire career
Right.
of DID. Like, no question.
And the only case I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty
happened
rare.
to be the most extreme.
Yeah, that's also 100% of them.
So I'm just going to sit the rest of this one out.
That's what they're all like, Nick.
They're all just like that. It's the same thing. So, but that's very rare. Usually dissociation, depersonalization, derealization have to do with things like feeling like you're not in your own head, feeling detached from the moment, like you're watching yourself in situations, losing a track of time and space, feeling as if things are slipping past you and you feel disconnected from it, feeling disconnected from self. And that's, those qualities are, in different amounts of them are what we're calling dissociation. So, I mean, if anybody's out there and, like you think, wow, I want to learn more about this, or is there a way to sort of like check into it? There's actually a publicly available scale. I will go ahead and put that. If you're a patron, go to patreon.com/therapy. I will attach the scale to this episode 200. And so if you go to our Patreon, I will attach the scale to that. It's fine. It's a public scale. Nick's looking at me like, it's not a clinical instrument. It's fine. It's a survey. It's just,
It also tells you what your body mass index is.
Yeah. Because we don't want to be unethical.
I didn't do that one.
Yeah, it was all me.
You set it up. You don't
How's
act
that one
innocent.
setting it
Don't
up?
act innocent.
I'm just
made
a dog
BMI
chasing
joke about a
cars.
scale.
Yeah,
How's
that's
that
right.
setting up an ethical joke?
I don't know what to do
That
when I
wasn't an
catch
ethical
the
joke
cars.
at all.
I don't want the Joker. I want the man that let him loose.
When I make a joke, you know what it's about.
This is generally true. Mine just sort of meander. I'm throwing darts. So the scale is called the Dissociative Experiences Scale -2, II. Publicly available. It is a about 28 question scale. Basically, it asks you percentages of the time that certain things happen. I won't read the whole thing here, but just to kind of put some feelers out there for what we're getting some audio feedback there. So things that like are on this scale. It says like, what percentage of the time do you notice that this happens for yourself? And it's a self-assessment tool. It's not for clinical diagnosis, but it's useful. So like number 1 is some people have the experience of driving or riding in a car or bus or subway and suddenly realizing that they don't remember what has happened during all or part of the trip. Circle how often this happens to you, 0 through 100%. Or like another question deeper on the list, like number 12, some people have the experience of feeling that other people, objects, or the world around them are not real. How often does this happen to you? So as you can kind of get a feel, it's testing those 3 core areas: depersonalization, derealization, and dissociation, and basically trying to kind of help notice how often people feel detached from their reality. Here's the last question on the test. Some people sometimes feel as if they are looking at the world through a fog, so that people and objects appear far away or unclear. How often does this happen to you? So as you can tell, the scales don't dive into things like hearing voices or believing that you're somebody that you're not. Then hearing voices, by the way, is not even a criteria for this. So if you're out there and you're like, I'm curious about this, or I have a family member, you can check it out as the Dissociative Experiences Scale -II, Roman numeral 2. And pretty useful. It's a self-examination scale. And if, you score highly on it, which you'll be able to see from your own results, you might want to talk to your doctor about that. You might want to recruit a therapist and review the answers with them and see about it. If somebody has DID, basically as a therapist, what we're trying to do is A, help them become very insightful about it, very aware of when it's happening, and B, just become like as able to control it as they can. Sometimes there will be medication that's involved. More often we're going to do trauma work and we're going to notice an alleviation of the symptoms over time. And so it sounds like, Ryder, that's what your wife's doing. So, I mean, I like that you're hearing it, you're understanding it. I like that you're giving credit to it. I like that you're not being dismissive of it. DID or any mental health condition is never an excuse for the choices we make as people. It is context that can help understand who we are and why we are. But we're still accountable for our choices. And it sounds like your wife has been going through a tremendous amount of stress. It sounds like you're trying to figure out what happens next. All options are on the table. You said, hey, you're open to marital advice. Keep going to counseling is my number one advice on that. Keep going. I like that you guys are dealing with that. I like that you're keeping an open mind to both options. I think that actually allows you guys, you said amenable. I hope that means you guys are still friendly. That's ideal. And I think that you guys are allowed to kind of explore that space. But I mean, I just like that you're being supportive. I mean, you said, I want to inquire about DID. I mean, hopefully I've given you kind of some insights as far as where you can find more information about it, or how I'm sure that her therapist has already given her the DES too.
Well, I guess I was just rereading this. I don't know if it's her therapist or, well, it does say her therapist.
I think it's the wife's therapist.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, how can you, help not distract from the mental health journey? How do you approach a partner with DID? I mean, if you think your partner has DID, I would probably print out the DES-2 and say, it's a very approachable survey. It's not intimidating. And just say, hey, I was listening to this podcast. I've heard about this thing called DID. It's not like a scary disorder or anything, but it might be a thing. Like, we should figure out if maybe you qualify as this, and what does that mean for us, right? Because there could be methods and techniques that we want to master that'd be helpful for you. So the DES-2 is a great way to approach that if your spouse is out there. And like I said, as far as supporting them, the fact that they're also going through a mental health journey does not pause or mean that you now negate the couple's work.
Mm-hmm.
They can both happen at the same time.
Yeah.
Hopefully with different therapists.
Yes.
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
Some small towns or some resources are limited, and that isn't always possible, but your therapist will make the call about what should happen, and they would be the one that I would respect to make the decision on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for supporting them. Thanks for writing in about it. Thanks for giving us a chance to talk more about DID. And again, folks, if you're out there and you want to learn more about it, you can Google it yourself, the Dissociative Experiences Scale-2, or patreon.com/therapy. Go to episode 200, and I will make sure to link it in the show notes so that you can check it out. Hell, I'll put it in the show notes on this one, too. You don't even have to kick us a buck.
Oh, look at him.
Look at me giving away
go.
free
Good
materials
you.
for free.
Free materials.
What
that are
a
already
nice
free.
guy.
Oh, look at you.
Thanks for writing in, Anonymous. Damn it, that's a good name. Super respect that. It's Anonymous.
Is it on a mouse or not a moose?
Ooh. Or
I mean, they would be spelled differently. I'm asking you a question.
Oh.
That wasn't.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was real.
Jim was getting very philosophical.
That was
I know.
deep.
Wow.
I can't see the email.
It was mouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was.
Anonymous, really. It's a plurality. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about motorcycle anxiety.
I don't even know what you think that meant.
You're listening to Grease Lightning.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr., Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Banana Scoop, Malaya, and Cindy Ash. If you'd like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Our second.
And Edgar Allan Poe, the only one who really matters.
Right.
Sleep well, sweet prince.
Here's our next question. Who was the only U.S. network news anchor on the scene when the Berlin Wall came down on November 9th, 1989? Is it A, Dan Rather, B, Tom Brokaw, C, Geraldo Rivera, D, Peter Jennings, or E, Edgar Allan Poe?
Brian Williams, final answer.
If you'd like to join the Therapy Producers and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
I believe he landed under sniper fire.
Give them to me again.
Yep.
Dan Rather,
Okay.
Tom Brokaw,
Yeah.
Geraldo Rivera,
Nope.
Okay.
Peter Jennings,
Nope.
Edgar Allan Poe,
Ooh, Edgar.
Leonardo da Vinci,
All right.
I mean, I really want it to be
It's Tom or it's Dan?
Geraldo,
Geraldo.
Yeah. Oh, God. I
Yeah.
wish it was Geraldo. The Berlin Wall,
Berlin Wall.
at what time? Before it crashed? Before it was pulled down?
When it was, this is when it was coming down.
Oh,
November
shit.
9th, 1989.
89?
Yes.
Dan Rather or Tom Brokaw?
I
What
would
do
have
you
given Jim $500 right now if he could tell me what year the Berlin Wall came down.
89.
Yeah.
I accept.
would have.
Give me money.
What date?
Oh.
Since we've said it 3 times.
Oh, have you?
In the last
Yep.
minute.
Oh, I got no idea. I believe it was a spring day, Benjamin.
It was not.
Oh.
What
Well, in our
country,
hemisphere it
what
was.
country was the Berlin Wall in?
Berlinia.
There you go.
Duh. Dummy.
South Berlinia.
South Berlinia. East Berlinia. I pick Brokov.
Oh yeah. Did the Berlin Wall divide Berlin into
Bro, I
east-
know my World War II
east
history.
and west or north and south?
East and west.
Okay.
Don't listen. I may be a complete spaz when it comes to geography.
And
I know me some geopolitical history, though. I
Go ahead-
will get that.
Go ahead and keep on listing off the things.
That's it. That's 100% of the things I don't know about.
You guys
Where
Brokaw?
things are on maps. I'm going Brokov.
Yeah.
Take Rather. That's the best option.
I mean,
Well,
Peter Dinklage.
You can't eliminate Peter Jennings either. I mean, the
Yeah,
three of those.
yeah, Jennings was
Rather, Brokaw, and Jennings.
That's solid.
those
yeah.
were those are your 3
Legitimate
main
choices. But it's obviously
guys.
not Jennings, or he wouldn't have just brought it up to help you.
I feel like it was Wolf Blitzer.
Ooh, the wolf.
I want to change my answer.
Yeah. I feel like it's a trick question.
You didn't realize you could add your
I didn't
own.
realize I could bring my own in.
The trick
Rachel
question,
Maddow.
it was Wolf Blitzer.
Rachel Maddow.
Yeah,
Wolf
yeah.
Blitzer.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Sure, rather.
Okay. It was Tom Brokaw.
Yay! Does that mean I get a beer?
No.
Oh, man, we never bet anything on the ones I win.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah, it
We
is
tied
weird.
today, though.
I should just bet on everything.
Yeah, it was one.
That is
1-1.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did get a 1-to-1. If you'd like to submit trivia to the show, podtherapyguys@gmail.com. We would love your trivia, because then Nick could answer them too. Just make sure you hide the answers in your email. That way we
That's
can't
true.
accidentally stumble upon them. It'd be great if all 3 of us could guess.
A good way to do it is to have a really long, make it really long, a lot of spaces
Yeah.
between the questions, and then have the answers down so you have to scroll down.
Yep. Just 2 questions, or send us a bunch. We don't care. Send us a whole month's worth of questions. That'll be fun. We like multiple choice, and we do not like geography.
Oh yeah.
questions.
By the way, these were from Trivial Pursuit. I had to add options because, well,
Yeah,
we know.
We know. Because it wasn't going to work if we just had to throw them out. You'd have gotten answers like Rachel Maddow and Wolf Blitzer. Yeah, I'd choose Chris Hayes. What? All right, motorcycle anxiety. Hey, guys. Resident Pterodactyl Chris here. Hell yeah.
Oh, we should speak to him in his native language.
Over the weekend, I went over to my dad's to help him take one of his motorcycles to the car wash, and I nearly had an anxiety attack. For context, when I was 14, I used to ride a moped back and forth to football, and I wrecked it driving irresponsibly. Afterwards, I struggled riding the moped and often just asked for rides from others instead of riding the stupid moped. I constantly felt like I was falling when I was riding it. Interesting. Fast forward about 7 years, and I decided to try riding again. I've always wanted to ride motorcycles, and it's something lots of my friends and family do. I took the safety class and earned my motorcycle license, and started riding around my town, but still had lots of anxiety or fear while riding the bike, and I was unable to make it far from home. After that riding season, I live in the Midwest, I kept making excuses why I didn't want to ride. Well, finally this weekend I told my dad I would, and when I tried, I was very in my head about it, and started to drive down the driveway and had to turn around. I really want to be able to ride a motorcycle, but now I'm feeling like I should probably just give it up. As a new therapist, oh cool. Wow, this person's also a therapist.
Awesome.
That's awesome. As a new therapist, I also have mixed feelings about attending therapy as a therapist. I've heard Nick share about his experiences, and that does provide some encouragement. Thanks, guys. Chris. Oh, very cool letter. I like this one on a lot of levels. So the way to get out of your head before you drive a motorcycle when you have anxiety, you want to take a few shots of whiskey. Okay. Ethics.
I did not see that coming.
Ah! I know what I'm talking about, Tangeman.
Yeah, you gotta calm your nerves.
You gotta calm your nerves. Little JD. Watch it all away. No, officer. You see, this was responsible. I was feeling a little jittery. So this is a good one, man. So let me ask you this. Have either of you guys ever been in a car accident?
Yes.
Had any kind of thing?
Oh, yeah.
And then afterward, did you have that kind of like weird, it took a while to kind of get back into it again where you felt comfortable? You have that experience? Dude, I did.
I don't think
I
so.
don't, no,
I've been in a lot of car accidents.
I've been in 3.
God, you guys should not have licenses.
Well, I was only driving in one.
Oh,
No, 2.
okay.
But and only one of them was ever my fault.
Okay.
It was when I was
Yeah.
15.
But did you, neither of you guys had like the shell shock of like the next time you get into a car, you kind of feel a little uneasy?
I got into mine pretty young, so I kind of like become
Yeah.
accustomed to it.
Yeah.
I think
The
Pretty used to 'em.
first car accident I was ever in was a school bus rolled down a hill, like 8 times, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was terrible.
Mm.
And it was frightening and everything else. But I was in 2nd grade,
Oh, wow.
and so I think that just
Oh, yeah, you were telling us about
Yeah.
that
I
story.
think, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
completely dulled my my fear senses
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
with
yeah.
any of that.
Now you just don't even.
I
have
am
those
I am
triggers.
to date still a nervous passenger.
Okay, yeah.
when someone
never
else is
feel
driving.
comfortable.
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
passenger.
If I'm driving, I'm fine.
No, so and I think there's also a difference here when we talk about cars versus motorcycles.
Yeah. One
Because
of them, Nick, has
motorcycles,
2 wheels.
That's
the other one. A lot of people don't know this. It has double that, 200% the wheels.
right. I don't even remember where I was going with this, but
You're welcome.
like the motorcycle, like you there's so much more vulnerability.
Oh, tons, yeah, obviously.
You know, and I remember even like having anxiety riding a bicycle.
yeah.
Now that I can relate to because I
Sure.
was in a biking accident where I
Okay.
got kind of run over by another kid on a bike, not in a car.
Okay.
But
Not by a
but like
reindeer.
but yeah, I like it. There was some anxiety kind of getting back into that, you know,
Yes.
a little bit, and that totally makes sense. I mean, like with the car, I think naively I felt protected even in the accidents, like because it was one of those things where like, wow, this is pretty serious, but like I'm fine, you know, and
Yeah.
it kind of gives you that sense of like,
Because you had like on the wings of an angel bumper sticker.
right,
Felt
yeah,
protected in the
yeah. I
car.
was listening to
That helps.
Sarah McLachlan at the
Yeah,
time too, and so
that's
it
how
was
you
just
know.
like it's
Mhm.
Something
protected.
about it, you know, just
Yeah.
the warmth. Like, you know what? We're going to be all right.
But
But
like
you adopted several animals.
yeah. Those help too.
Yeah.
Great airbags.
Oh, that's not cool.
No. So I relate to that. Like, okay, so I was in a car accident and I remember afterward being very not just nervous, but noticing my body being very tense. I remember grinding my feet, like looking for the brake as a passenger and just feeling really uneasy and just very easily startled. So there's definitely, I mean, I think going through an accident, even on a moped, but the writer says, hey, it was significant to them.
Yeah.
That is textbook trauma, right?
Yeah.
Not all things that are scary in your life are traumatic. Not all traumas or things that were traumatic are imprintable traumas that are going to affect future behavior. It's still a pretty rare thing. It doesn't always happen, right? But I think in this case, that sounds an awful lot like trauma, Chris. And so like when I hear that, I think, okay, I had a patient years ago who was in a car accident and then had really, really bad anxiety anytime she got into a car. She could not do it. And she was a woman in her 60s. And so for a while, she would only sit in the back seat of her car while her husband would drive. And that was the only way that she could ride. And she needed him to keep it like at 35 or younger. It wouldn't go on freeways. Like she was very, very nervous, very struggling with that. The way that we fixed that, so she ultimately got better. And the way that we were able to work with her to help that happen, I took a trauma-informed approach.
Mm-hmm.
So less than I took an anxiety CBT approach, which I know that we did too. I'm sure that we cruised over the CBT tools. We did trauma work. And so, Chris, I mean, in your case, you said that you're already seeing a therapist. I mean, I'm sure you've looked into EMDR. I'm sure you're familiar with it. If it's something that you're interested in, EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing technique, really could be the ticket here. If not that, if you don't want to go full-blown EMDR, maybe just sitting down and doing some really intentional trauma reprocessing work. It doesn't have, I mean, I love EMDR. I think it's a very fancy technique. I think it's very effective. It's a lot of good research has gone into it. I'm not trained in EMDR, so I don't usually use it. I don't try to use things I'm not trained in. I mean, sometimes I'll borrow from bilateral stimulation, but that's, anyway, I'm getting into the weeds. The point is, doing trauma reprocessing helped that patient because what we did is we went back, we rememoried the experience of the car accident for her, getting into the visceral details of the incident. And yes, anxiety came flowing out as we did that remembering process. And yeah, we processed through it. And after about 3 or 4 kind of really intentional encounters that went along with that, while incorporating things like grounding techniques and tapping, like we made some really good progress. And she ultimately was able to sit in the front, and we started doing in vivo experiences, where we had to actually practice doing the scary thing, right? So she got into the passenger seat and her husband drove, and they just drove around the neighborhood a few times. And that was a whole task that we had set up for her. And then eventually we graduated to her driving, but only around the neighborhood, very carefully with her daughter, who was an adult. And then we eventually got all the way to her starting to tentatively get out on the city streets again and things like that. So the process can work, man. But the three things I would throw at you.
Name? Danica Patrick.
That's right. And now she's doing all right for herself. Does Jim get a taste of that? Not a bit. Got paid in full at the time of session. But these are the risks I take, man. So yeah, I would say that the 3-step process that I would sit down with your therapist and talk about, CBT, I think would be really helpful just for general anxiety management. Attacking this as a trauma, trying to do the reprocessing techniques, and then considering in vivo, trying to do short exposures using the motorcycle, setting small parameter goals, and doing that. Not trying to go crazy with it, just driving through a parking lot. Just getting yourself reaffiliated with the machine, I think could be a really good thing. Unless it's a Harley, in which case, sell it.
Well, I think kind of that systematic desensitization approach where you're just going just to the edge of your comfort zone, and then you kind of go back, and then you just kind of continue to push yourself a little bit, but also utilizing some sort of grounding technique or some sort of I want to say grounding technique again, but some sort of coping mechanism to kind of decrease that anxiety. Because then you start to learn that you have some control over that.
Right.
That it's not, because I think that's part of the anxiety itself, is the feeling of lack of control. And then when you start to realize that you can actually manipulate that a little bit, then it kind of starts to decrease.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, so I agree with Nick's idea of edging. I think everybody should try it. I think it'd be really helpful for you, Chris. Don't be afraid to explore. Explore your body, man.
All right.
It's really good for you. Am I missing the point again?
Yeah.
All right, the last thought.
Yeah.
Also, it's okay if you just say, I'm done with motorcycles. If
That's
you're just
fine, too.
honestly in your head about it and you're like, hey, I used to have joy in this. I used to think it was cool. For whatever reason, I've turned a page in my life and I don't enjoy this anymore. If it doesn't bring you joy, don't do it. You don't have to. And like, just to put that out there too, man, like there's just some things in my life I do not benefit from because of the traumas that I've gone through with that. I can't watch medical shows. I can't do it. I do not enjoy that genre at all. Even if it's funny, I can tolerate Scrubs, but almost everything else I cannot do. And it's not a form of entertainment for Jim. So I just pass on it. I enjoy the rest of life. There's nothing shameful about that for you. I don't know how Midwesterners are, Nick. Do you guys judge each other?
No, you got to push that shit down.
Yeah.
You just you bury those feelings.
It's grout, bitch.
Bury those feelings.
Or
don't
do that.
show that. No, but
Edging, the Midwestern way.
The issue with a therapist going to therapy says, you said, Chris, that you kind of got some mixed feelings about that. I personally, I don't have any mixed feelings about it all. I think I did when I first did that. Like, I was kind of like, I had different thoughts, like, what are they going to tell me that I don't know?
Yeah.
And then other thoughts of like, well, I don't want other people to think I'm in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But then that one went away quickly because I
Right.
kind of realized, like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, if it's beneficial, why wouldn't we do it?
Right.
And
And
it doesn't
really
it doesn't
is.
mean that you're not capable of being a therapist if you're going to therapy.
No.
A dentist has a dentist.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah.
So it's
Heart surgeons, guess
yeah.
what? They don't do their own work.
What are they going to tell me that I don't know?
Give me that wrench.
Yeah, just
Jesus.
hold the mirror steady.
It's
You
like
know,
The
it's
Martian.
yeah.
You're Matt Damoning that shit. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No
yeah,
shame in
so
the game.
it's- yeah.
No shame in it. And, like, I think for me, I think anytime I've seen a therapist, I think the benefit of being in the profession is you can tell them, here are approaches that I already know I'll respond really well to, and I'd really like to partner with you to facilitate that work. Because you do get to shop for therapists. You do get to pick things that they already have their modalities. We usually advertise our modalities. Very common that patients will tell us, I've read a lot about CBT. Do you do CBT? I'd like to use CBT. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. And like, that's fine. As a therapist, I'm just a more educated version of that. And
Right.
so I'll just say, hey, I really want to do Rogerian person-centered work. Give me the space to explore my truth. Make it safe for me. You don't have to have any tricks in your bag. You don't have to give me any homework. Jim doesn't respond well to that. Let's just give me a safe place to do the work, and I'll do the work if you spot me.
Yeah, I mean, really kind of saying like, well, I don't want to go to therapy because I am a therapist is almost kind of saying like, well, I don't want to look in a mirror because I know what I look like.
Right. You're going to
Well,
need
the
to.
mirror has value.
Yeah. There's
You
still
know,
something
what
there
it
for
does
you.
is it provides an outside perspective, and that's exactly what a therapist does. Yeah, there wasn't anything like that, any kind of technique or anything that happened when I was in therapy that was groundbreaking or that I didn't realize.
Right.
What was groundbreaking was the insight that I didn't have
Right.
and that I came to realize by working with a therapist and having that outside perspective.
That to me, by the way, so I've been rereading the collected works of Carl Rogers. I want to do a whole deep dive into this in the future, but for those of you who are interested, Carl Rogers, in Jim's opinion, just speaking for myself, I believe he's the greatest psychotherapist to have ever lived. I really do believe that. And I believe that his theories are everything. Like everybody else, I think has really cool paint on the car. I think he built the fucking car. And I think that his theories are the best. So Carl Rogers, really great works of his. On Becoming a Person's a really good one. There's so many. But I bring that up because what Nick said about insight, my view is even if you're sitting with a therapist that you're better than, you honestly just are. Like, and that's the thing, right? Like there's different levels of excellence, right? That's just the thing. There's this heart surgeon that's going to help the best heart surgeon in the world. If he's sick and he needs care, he can't go to the best heart surgeon in the world. He is it, right? So he's going to have to go to somebody lesser. Same thing with a dentist or anybody else or anything else in healthcare. Even if that's the case, I believe that you get out of therapy what you bring to therapy. I believe that the therapist's job is to facilitate, in many ways, your own growth and understanding and insight building. They don't have to know something special or have a bag of tricks. We often have those, and I find those to be very helpful in our work. But just know, Chris, the value of sitting down and doing that work, it doesn't speak to you being insufficient. Any of these narratives that we build up in our heads of like, oh, I needed help, I wasn't good enough, that's not how it works. Heal thyself is a joke. Like, that's not a thing. You can't do that. Like, you go to this other person and you participate in the regenerative, collaborative process that is therapy. They're not better than you. You don't have to feel less than for being in their presence. They're the mirror. Mm-hmm. You can't hold that mirror. Somebody else has to do that for you. They're just your collaborator. That's all they are. And so don't feel like it's somehow a recognition.
It's
of your
also
value.
it's also a lot more common than most people think.
It's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best things that eased my anxiety in the very first session that I went to with my therapist is because I wasn't going to say what I do for work.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to bring it up.
Oh, you thought you were going to get away with just not bringing it up?
I did, and that lasted for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the intake, she's
Yeah,
asking
they ask what you
questions
do.
and all that stuff.
Tried
And
to say, I work in healthcare.
So
Yeah.
I kind of explained, and she's like, oh yeah. She's like, well, I have a lot of therapists on my caseload.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very common.
Yeah.
Very common. One of the number one things in the Facebook group that's like Therapists Las Vegas is just us posting to each other and saying like, hey, I'm going through something. Anybody got, some caseload space open for, a colleague? And that's all. It's the highest honor. I mean, like as a therapist, whenever, your colleague trusts you, obviously it's a really big deal. And yeah, I mean, it's so common. We've all at some point visited with a therapist. The way that we're brought up through apprenticeship is very similar to therapy in a lot of ways. It's distinctly not, but it is adjacent enough that it's simulated in a lot of ways. So it's just built into what we do. So Chris, I mean, if you're struggling with it at all, I hope you hear both of us very vocally telling you there is no shame in it. We have worked with other therapists ourselves. We have been to therapists ourselves. That is the damn game. And you know what? That's how we get healthy, man. You can't do your own root canal if you're a dentist. You can't do your own stint if you're a heart surgeon. And, there's a lot we can do in self-care. But at some point, we might need to sit down with somebody and get a spotter. And that's all it is, bud. So get the work done. No excuses. Or get rid of the motorcycle, man. I won't judge you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a Harley.
I tell you what, I would love to have a motorcycle.
Are you there? You at that age?
I would never do it, though.
Too scared?
Yeah, it's not that I don't trust me. I don't trust anybody else.
Oh, that's it. No, that's
Yeah.
100% it.
Like if this was like an I Am Legend end of the world type situation,
yeah.
oh, I'd have a motorcycle. I'd be driving it everywhere.
Yeah, because
I'd
there's
love
nobody
it.
that can hit you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's right. There's just a zombie. Just don't go out at night. It's not a big deal.
I've seen way too many YouTube videos
Yeah.
of bad drivers.
No. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I subscribe to a Reddit thread called Idiots in Cars.
Yeah.
That will cure you
Oh,
forever.
yeah. No, yeah.
No, I'm good. I want to drive a tank.
I've actually been thinking about buying a dash cam.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just for that reason, just because I see so many stupid things
Oh,
happen on the
yeah.
road. Like, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
I want to do that too. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you for reminding
You're
me. It's
welcome.
been on my shopping list. That'd be a great birthday present. My birthday's coming up. That'd be fun for me. All right, we are at the end of the show. This is the 200th episode. Thanks to all of you who sent us audio postcards. Dicks. If you do not subscribe to us on social media and you're a regular listener to the show, you probably should. Pick us up. Facebook is at PodTherapyGuys. Twitter's at PodTherapyGuys. Instagram's at PodTherapyGuys. Actually, Facebook is just PodTherapy. That was the only one that I could just get PodTherapy.
Oh, yeah.
The rest are PodTherapyGuys.
We
So-
should get off Facebook anyway.
Yeah, Facebook's gross. So, but whatever. We got to hang out there. Also, it's the first episode of the month. So this is when we thank all the peoples who make the show possible. What do you want? You want pods?
Well, we got some new folks, too.
Oh,
Let's
all right.
do our new folks, and then we'll do our thank yous.
I'll do new folks.
Okay.
Dibs. Therapals. Wait, this is new Theropods? Oh, no, wait. Those are all Theropods. I was about to say, whoa.
It was a good week.
It's a really good week. Oh, my God. I just paid off my house. Want to thank all those who support our show at patreon.com/therapy. Thank you to our newest Therapals. Welcome, Vintage Heart and Kate.
Yep, and we've got a new pterodactyl, Stephen L. Proctor. Welcome to the flock.
Oh, cool. That's right. New pterodactyl. All right. We want to thank all of our Theropods, everybody that makes the show possible. If you're a Therapal, you're part of the group of Therapals, and you're like, I want my name mentioned at the beginning of every month. Hey, throw $4 more in there, rodeo clown, and we'll add you to the Theropod class. We're talking about Dan Martin. Oh, I think I lost to Dan in this week's fantasy football.
Did you just call them rodeo clowns?
Oh, maybe I
You
did.
did.
Fella.
I don't
Hold
even
on.
get that.
Now I'm checking. Well, you wouldn't.
I don't.
Yeah. That's an inside joke. Me and the rodeo
That's
clown.
really inside.
Who's the Bobo Doll
Jim and the
Bears?
Bull.
Oh, it's Chris Lambert. Yeah, I lost to him too. Actually, I think Dan Martin's doing really good.
I've
All right.
lost. I'm about done with fantasy football.
You can't
anyway,
quit yet. We're just
No,
taking our
I'm-
lumps. Want to thank Dan Martin, Kate Keller, Scoopstronaut, Corey Owens, Linda Brandmeier, Lori Eltzroth, Brad Kiefaver, Christine Phillips, Joseph Pengrazio, Tracy Replogle, a.k.a. my mom, who did not submit an audio card. Let the record show.
Come on.
Gavin Bristow, Carrie Terhark, also guilty.
Come on.
Stacy Westerlin, Richard Bruin, Scoopy Jess, Ian Whitefall, Chelsea Saracen, Craig Little, Curtis Kiwi Fruit Scoop, nailed it. Hanlon shit. James K, Katie Chiwakowski, Don Dorr, Jim Hunter, Adam Rabiznik, spelt like it sounds, Brooks Lyle, Okie Scoop, Jeffrey Ackerman, Matthew Nair, 3 Scoops a Lady, Elliot H. Lamb, Todd Canfield, David Sorensen, Felicia Butler, Chelsea Lamb, Shayla Bullock, Scoopatron, Lauren Izzo in the Hizzo, Stacy Coleman, I have the knack, Adam Pettinuzzo, Lauren Matz Lenegren, Polygon, Heather, Take It EV Podcast, Sustainable Transportation for All, Ulrika, Ian Soto, Jessica Cyphers, Andrew Langmead, Charlie Quinn Starling, Natalie MC, That Josh Guy, Kernapillar, Levante Baggy, nailed it, Dr. Scoop Little, Mama Ninja Scoop, Colson Morrow, Jacob Harrington, Sean Daughtry. I think it's Daughtry. What do you think?
Yeah.
That feels right. Daughtry. Sean Daughtry.
Yeah.
It's a
fine.
good name. I like that name.
Yeah.
It's an American name. Amanda H. Grumpy Lake Mead Park
No, it's
Ranger.
not Daughtry. It
I'm
can't be
still really happy about that.
Yeah,
Remember
that's funny.
Grumpy? That was great. Grumpy Lake Mead Park Ranger. Sarah Olo, Brian Emra, John Hanfelder, Sam Buck.
And thanks to all of our pterodactyls, Ice Blue Scoop, Brian Lehman, Scott Brady, Fred Bashara Jr., Andrea Anderson, Lindsay Bashara, Robert Paulson, Tess Miller, Slurpy Kaye Motherfucker, Ezekiel Lawrence, Frozen Cusser, Angie Ellis, Ryan Stewart, Scott Ashlock, Robert Ward, Sapphire, Sammy Scoop, Tori Snyder, Chris, Benjamin Stanley, Sandra. Now here's the thing. Sandra McAuliffe.
Oh,
Okay.
nailed it. Good job, buddy.
No, but she changed it.
To McLawful.
Yes.
Because you can't say words.
Cy Shononigan. God
Yes!
damn it. No, I can say this one, but I always get screwed up because her name comes first, and then
Maybe
it throws
if
me off.
you had better ethics.
Cy Shonigan, Stephen L. Proctor,
TKO.
TKO.
You're
There we go.
welcome.
Got that
Oh,
one.
it's cute how you try to read words. And we want to thank our bosses, the Sacred 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the Thera producers. We're talking about Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Judy Schneider. The Schneiders, by the way, are Hall of Fame Pod Therapy supporters at this
Yeah,
point.
they've made platinum status.
They've made platinum. So is Robert Brownie Jr. Mint. At some point, we should do an audit of this thing and recognize those who have like achieved platinum status and diamond status. Schneiders always support us, everything they do. Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, also a decent person, except when he's shitting all over me on Twitter, which happens regularly. But whatever, he pays for the show. King of Student Loan Debt, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain, Malaya, Richard Macy, Cindy Ash, Newstick, and first of name breather, Fire Dumb of Ass, Lord Colin Stewart.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited,
And why wouldn't you?
and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy, and thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode or else with someone who needs
keep
it.
going.
By
Keep
opening
going.
this episode's description in your podcast app. Copy paste the link provided in your social media. I've lost
doing great.
I've lost the D's. I don't have it
You're
anymore.
doing great.
Don't forget you can find us on Facebook.com/PodTherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, on Instagram @PodTherapyGuys, and at Patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Ethics Tangeman.
I'm Macho Man Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
You will obey the law.
Yeah, I just can't keep doing that voice.
I know, it's exhausting. Takes a lot out of you.
Oh, I'm so disappointed that you guys can't keep doing that voice.
Leon, you're probably going to have to write in and explain to
I'm
me
gonna
the
do it
difference
some more.
between defamation and libel.